In his absence, may I invite Chief Judge of the High Court of Sindh, Honorable Mr. Justice Ahmed Ali Shaikh, to make his comments.
Justice Umrata Bandial, Honorable Chief Justice and Chairman, Law and Justice Commission of Pakistan, Acting Chief Justice, Federal Shariat Court, Honorable Judges of Supreme Court, the former Judges of Supreme Court of Pakistan, Honorable Chief Justices of High Courts, the respectable judges of various High Courts, the respectable members of the bar associations, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. So I would share a few words on the role of judiciary in upholding the rule of the law and maintaining the supremacy of the Constitution. The rule of law is to be preferred to that of individual. These words attributed to Aristotle explain the significance of judiciary's role and responsibility. The rule of law is the cornerstone of any legal system as it ensures protection against arbitrary and capricious power. In the absence of rule of law, citizens will be insecure, fearful, and vulnerable to human rights violation. Of the three branches of the state, it is perhaps the judiciary that carries the heaviest burden for upholding the rule of law. Tom Bingham, in his book, The Rule of Law, identifies key elements of the rule of law, including the following. Law must be accessible and, so far as possible, intelligible, clear, and predictable. The laws of the land should apply equally to all. Law must afford adequate protection of fundamental rights. The rule of law requires that due process be followed in the resolution of any civil dispute or criminal trials. The requirement for due process is captured in Article 4 of Pakistan's Constitution, a right of individuals to be dealt with in accordance with the law. It is one of the fundamental responsibilities of the judiciary to ensure that Article 4 of the Constitution is upheld and that all individuals are dealt with according to the law, rather than arbitrary power. Justice Hamudur Rahman, in the Begum Sorish Kashmiri's case, stated that due process requires following: the accepted norms of legal process and suggest as strict performance of all the functions and duties laid down by law. The Constitution, 18th Amendment Act 2010 added Article 10A to the Constitution, which explicitly inserts the due process requirement for the determination for his civil rights and obligations. In any criminal charge against him, a person shall be entitled to a fair trial and due process. It is a core responsibility of the judiciary to ensure that violations of the right to due process by state actors do not go unchecked. The executive authority, which holds the monopoly of force and has the power to deprive a person of life and liberty, must not be allowed to exercise these powers arbitrarily. It is the role of the judiciary to ensure that executive does not abuse its authority. The rule of law and due process cannot be upheld until and unless all persons are treated as equals before the law. Again, it is the responsibility of the judiciary to ensure that there are no illegitimate differentiation and discrimination between people. Article 25 of the Constitution states that all persons are entitled to equal protection of the law. It explicitly provides that there shall be no discrimination on the basis of sex. The judiciary can only carry out its role as a protectors of the rule of law if it is independent. The independence of the judiciary is essential in any democracy. Without it, the judiciary will be unable to protect persons from arbitrariness of power and uphold the equality of citizens. Unless it is independent, the judiciary will be unable to check executive power and ensure the supremacy of the Constitution. In order for the judiciary to be independent, the principle of separation of powers must be upheld. The executive and legislature should not unduly interfere or influence the judiciary. The process of appointment and removal of judges must be consistent with the principle of judicial independence. Independence requires insulation from political forces as well as internal prejudices and preferences that may compromise the impartiality of the judge. Impartiality of the judge requires that judges do not take part in political controversies and they restrain themselves from publicly airing their views regarding the outcome of political debates. Judges must be free from personal interest in any matter before them. It is also crucial that judges hear all parties in any case before them with an open mind. The power of judicial review enables the court to uphold the Constitution. Judicial review gives the judiciary the power to examine and decide: 1, the constitutional validity of any law; 2, the constitutional validity of any action taken by the executive. With the power of judicial review comes an immense responsibility to apply constitutional law fairly and impartially. The principle of judicial review, as it is applied in Pakistan, has its origin in the famous and oft-quoted case of the US Supreme Court, Marbury versus Madison. Justice Marshall, in deciding that case, declared that US Constitution imposes limit on the government, and these limits must be enforced by the judiciary. Justice Marshall stated, "It is emphatically the province and duty of the judicial department to say what the law is." In order to uphold the separation of powers, it is crucial that power of judicial review be exercised with some degree of judicial restraint. This means that judiciary should not step into the roles of the executive and legislature, even as it determines the constitutional validity of laws and government actions. In general, there should be a presumption of constitutionality of legislative and executive actions, which can, of course, be rebutted through sound evidence and arguments for unconstitutionality. In declaring a law to be unconstitutional, the judiciary should make its decision based on narrowest grounds possible. To leave the room open for future legislative and executive action in the same area. Upholding the Constitution requires that judiciary faithfully apply a robust principle of constitutional interpretation. While Pakistan has a written constitution, its provisions cannot be applied in a robotic or mechanical manner. The Constitution must be viewed as an organic document. In the Benazir Bhutto versus Federation of Pakistan's case, the Honorable Supreme Court stated that the Constitution is not merely an imprisonment of the past, but is also alive to the unfolding of the future. The judiciary has a crucial role to play to ensure that the limits imposed by the Constitution on our state actors are upheld. In carrying out this responsibility, the judiciary must uphold the rule of law and ensure that due process is followed in all government actions. The judiciary must guard its independence and always strive to approach cases with as much fairness and impartiality as possible. Thank you very much. Pakistan Paindabad.